Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Brand new.
Hey, we're talking brand new Joe. Hey, we're on a brand new show. Deep dive, blow by blow. Spotting Uzis and crossbow. Like a buzzbow or pogo. Got ninjas like Don Shadow. Comics are how I spend my dough. We're coming to you in stereo. It's time for Talking Joe. With Mark and Tim, here we go.
Brand new.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, coming to you from the far reaches of the Energon universe once again, and you are listening to Talking Joe, the G.I. Joe comics podcast. If you are new to the show, you can find out all of the details over at the website, which is talkingjoe.co.uk. Now, today we are talking about G.I. Joe issue number 19, released Wednesday, the 18th of February, 2026. That was the Wednesday just gone. The official synopsis for this issue was Joe versus Transformer. The secret is out when Duke discovers that Clutch has been hiding the Autobot Hound from the Joes. Can anyone stop him from putting down Hound permanently? Putting him down like a dog. That's because he's a hound. Oh, clever. Anyway, joining me, as always, it's a man with a mask. It's Tim Finn.
Hi, Mark. Hello, listeners and viewers.
There we go. So today we will be looking at G.I. Joe issue number 19. It is the return of not just the Duke and Hound and Clutch storyline, which was put on pause for an issue from the end of the Dreadnought War, but it is also the return of artist Andrea Milana, late of Cobra Commander, and also of that great art featuring Baroness and cover girl in Paris. It's G.I. Joe in Paris, if you remember the jingle. So we are live at the time of recording. Hi to everyone joining us live, like Matt, Alex, and Solbro Ryu, waiting to see how they handle Scott and T-Bob. So yeah, we will get into that a little bit in a second. So,
is this where I can sing the Mask theme song? Well, what were you
hold your horses. Hold your horses.
What's the news? Where are we in the show?
Okay, the first bit of news that we're going to talk about is the brand new Kickstarter from IDW. So IDW, we normally talk about ARA stuff on the ARA show, but this is too bigger news to ignore. So a little while back, we had a Kickstarter, a nice hardback collection of 4 hardcover volumes collecting 1 through to 155 of the Marvel era, plus a little bit more. But G.I. Joe did continue on from then. IDW picked up that same continuity and continued with 155 and a half through to 300, almost the same amount of issues. And so, and also that had a much smaller print run as well. So it was quite hard for people who wanted to have the complete story to be able to do that. So this Kickstarter will allow people to buy a 4-volume set collecting that IDW era, and that they will also be offered along with it a reprint of the Marvel one if you missed out on that. So they're calling that Compendium Sets 1 and 2. The campaign will be live on Tuesday, March the 24th, 6 a.m. Pacific time, with stretch goals and campaign exclusive products to be announced through to the close of the campaign, which will be Wednesday, April the 22nd. So basically a month. And did you see this art here, Tim? I think this is probably the first time that the vehicle Crossfire, that radio controlled vehicle, is the first time it's been represented in comics form. So here's what the box will look like, very similar to the one that was released last time. So it will be very much sympathetic, sitting alongside it on a shelf. If you've got a shelf that's big enough to have two of these bad boys sitting side by side. If you get the G.I. Joe version of the collection, this is how it will look along your shelf. Volumes 1 through 4 being the Marvel era, volumes 5 through 8 being the IDW era. And that shelf and that spine art, nice character spotlights, all drawn by, I was going to say all drawn by Rod Wiggum. They're not all drawn by Rod Wiggum at all. Most of
there's a Mike Zeck, there's a Mike
there's
Fosberg,
a Mike Zeck,
there's a Ron Wagner. But thank you for playing our game.
Mixture.
I had a thought about this, and I think these are really handsome, and I do like this art. I feel like the Marvel run should have art from the Marvel run. And specifically, I think, for example, Compendium 4 of the Marvel run should have art from those issues. And I think that the IDW run should have art from the IDW run on it. And I understand it's all, one big story, but I feel like there's a little bit of a mismatch. Like, cool, Beachhead is on the hardcover, Compendium 8. That's great. I don't think Beachhead was ever in any of those issues. Or if he was, barely, sort of not like those appearances that we remember from when he first showed up. I certainly understand why, you wouldn't put sort of newer or less popular characters, or maybe art by less known artists when you're trying to sell this thing to not just people who really paid attention to the comics at the time 5 years ago, but everyone else. But still.
And devil's advocate, it does make it look like a piece, one thing rather than too much of a mishmash. But I get the point.
Whereas on that box, that new Andy Kubert art, I see Multo, and I see Dawn. So yeah, they get it. That drawing's great.
Yep. And we don't know too much about the complete details of what will be included in this. We can hazard a guess that it will include, the full run, the direct tie-ins like the yearbooks, the Cobra Prelude issue, and that silent option. But beyond that, I think it's still a bit TBC as to what other extras might be included.
Are we sort of hoping that if this mock-up, these 4 compendia look the same size, and there are 4 of them, I mean the later volumes 5, 6, 7, and 8, if you don't have special missions, then overall the IDW run is not as long as the combined Marvel run. Are we assuming that and the issues are shorter because they're 20 pages, not 22, are we assuming that sort of after like each cover there'll be like a B cover and a C cover as a way to make these later volumes sort of longer and fill out the run?
Yeah, the issue of the actual length of the stories themselves is a little bit different because there's more variant covers that didn't exist in the day, so they might include those to pad it out. And also the credit page was originally back in the day just the little box by the Indicia, whereas in the IDW run it was the inside front cover, so that's an extra page as well. So but overall there is fewer issues, so I'm hoping that we might see some nice extras like G.I. Joe Declassified or something like that included in this, sort of tying into Hama's run overall. But we shall see as the Kickstarter is launched and evolves. I'm sure some of these details will come
Did
out.
I catch that there'll be like a booklet or like a portfolio that reprints the trading cards from the first Kickstarter?
Think, yes, they've hinted that some of those things, the trading cards from the first Kickstarter, will be printed in some format. Yes, but the biggest thing that they've announced so far is that if you sign up to the Kickstarter mailing list early, then you will be entitled to receive a special edition G.I. Joe number 244, which features the first appearance of Dawn Moreno in her Dawn hero costume, battle togs, with a new cover from Chris Mooneyham. So that's a good incentive to sign up and get on that mailing list, so that when you do pull the trigger, then you don't miss out on that nice little extra. And that was similar to something that they did, I think, with a Storm Shadow exclusive.
Yeah, that was
trading card for.
Right. Yes. Right.
Right. Next up, we'll get into the Energon universe news as we take a little tour around.
All around the skybound world, are you looking for some G.I. Joe? There's Autobots and Decepticons and creatures from the sacred ring. All we need is Energon, sweet Energon. There'll be Energon everywhere. There'll be robots swinging, aliens killing, and Decepticons in the streets. Yeah!
So starting off with Void Rivals, issue number 27 was out no, it's not out. It will be out this coming week. So I'm showing the Ben Oliver cover to issue number 27, which features Pythona in his line-up style. But even from the regular cover, you do get a hint that Pythona will play a role. So Pythona there sort of sneaking out on the bottom slither of the cover. So what did it say? Part 3, the Quintesson War continues. The Quintessons gain the upper hand in the brutal war being waged on the sacred ring. But could Pythona, of all people, hold the key to victory? So for those people waiting for Pythona to make a little appearance in the world of Void Rivals in the Quintesson War, here she is. And I've got and they also released the solicits for May, and there will be a nice Pythona spotlight cover for that as well. So the Quintesson Wars wrapping up in part 6, which is issue 30, and it's the cover D, the 1 in 25 Yasmin Putri variant. Next up, there's a reprint of Transformers issue number 2. It's the 10th printing, Tim. Can you believe that? With a set of, I think...
I cannot.
With a set of 5 10th printings for issue number 2. Issue number 2 being a significant issue because it introduced G.I. Joe into the Energon universe. So cover A sort of is a recreation of the Daniel Warren Johnson image of Starscream reaching forward and towards Frosting and Duke's plane. And cover B is an interesting one because it's a sort of reinterpretation of that same cover by Jay. How am I going to pronounce this?
Anocleto?
Mm-hmm, and Romulo Fajardo Jr. on the covers.
If you're looking at these very small next to each other, you would actually think they're the same image because, Mark used the word re-envisioning or reinterpretation, but it is very much redrawing the exact same composition. It's not from a little bit of a different camera angle. And did you mention, Mark, that these A and B covers have gold foil, which is what Skybound does when one of its comics gets to a 10th printing, and it's happened for Transformers 1 and Void Rivals 1, where there's not new cover art. There is the original cover art, but there's the logo in gold foil, and then there's a little sort of border all the way around the corner, and it's like Skybound Gold 10th printing
extra fancy
edition. But then you were saying there are other covers. What else is there?
Those are the ones that are most interesting. And there's also a cover C, which is Dustin Nguyen. How do you pronounce it? I can never get it right.
Nguyen.
Cover D, which is Jason Howard, one of those character spotlights. This time Laserbeak, and John Amor on a cover E for the reprints. Out, I guess, last week was Transformers issue 29, which was a full-on battle between the Decepticons and the Transformers. It didn't have any more of that continuation of the mask storyline. And what was I going to say is as well that from the solicits, we were discussing before that Dan Mora only signed on for a certain limited amount of issues, but we now know who will be picking up after him, which will be Ludo Lullaby, who returns to Transformers with issue 31.
When you say returns, he did a fill-in issue, which was a Megatron spotlight story. Was that 18? I forget. There's another subtle change that has happened on Transformers, which is that Mike Spicer did not color this new issue. Sarah Stern did, and I think 90 or 99 people out of 100 wouldn't notice. I see that her palette is just a little bit different, and her treatment of lights and darks are different. And I think I like Mike Spicer's work more, but I don't yet have sort of a sentence to put it into. There's also a storytelling thing in this issue that I found confusing, but I'm still a big Transformers fan, and this was a fun issue. And hooray for the Energon universe. And what's next?
Next up, we have a G.I. Joe issue number 1, 6th printing. This one is from Sean Izak. My pronunciation is not great. Izaxe, let's say, and Triona Farrell. So it looks a little bit in the style of Doug Mankey, I want to say. Actually, I actually looked at this the first time and thought, could this be the cover that Marco was saying that he was doing? But no, this is the G.I. Joe team, Duke, Baroness, Covergirl, and Stalker under fire from sort of Energon laser blasts, sort of taking apart their cover. So yeah, an interesting composition, and I guess somewhat echoes the story of the interiors, where the G.I. Joe team were very much under fire in issue number 1.
This artist, Sean Izaxe, was drawing Green Arrow about 2 years ago, which Joshua Williamson was writing. And this artist has been at DC for the last several years. So maybe this is just a couple covers over here for a fun and well-paying competitor, or maybe this artist is now working for more than just DC.
Cool. And we got an announcement of the next arc from G.I. Joe in the Energon universe, G.I. Joe 22 through to 24. So it's an introduction of Crystal Ball into the G.I. Joe Energon universe, and leaning into the classified toy Dyer technology. So these 3 issues and the cover A covers sort of being tied together by sort of quite a black dark background and an almost sort of glow in the dark style green, which is just really making these covers pop. So it looks like it's going to, and it's also the return of Andrea Milana on this arc as well. So leaning a bit more into the horror genre, perhaps, that he enjoys playing with.
Mark, for people who don't follow the classified toys and don't know what you mean by Dyer tech, first of all, is that an acronym? And also, what is that?
Now you're putting me on the spot because I didn't write this down. I believe that it is an acronym, which I don't have immediately to hand, but it's this technology that Crystal Ball employs, which is perhaps hypnotic, perhaps a little bit of a projection, but it's also spilled out to a number of different figures now, where he's got these dire troopers who sort of have, like, for example, interchangeable heads, which are kind of these almost glow in the dark green, crazy Cthulhu effects. And they also had a couple of the animals as like projections as well. So it's a fun element of the new classified toys, which they're picking up here in the comics. And I do like this element of the crossover and tapping into what's going into the toys, and it's sort of really being a fuel for the writer's imagination. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what they have to do with this.
And now we talk about this really important thing that happened yesterday, right?
Did something happen yesterday? It did.
Everyone, something really important happened yesterday. It was your birthday.
There we go. This is a card from one of my lovely children, and this is a hand-drawn, hand-coloured happy birthday to me, Tim. And I do have to hand some of my birthday things just to give a little bit of flavour to the different things that I read when I'm not reading about G.I. Joe. So first up, Acme Novelty Library date book. Is it called date book? By Chris Ware. Chris Ware is just a genius.
That's volume 3. That's the third date book, folks. This is a sketchbook. It's a highly curated sketchbook of Chris Ware's.
I got Paranoid Gardens, which is drawn.
You haven't opened it yet.
I haven't opened it. I didn't get it yesterday. Written by Jared Way. Artists include Chris Weston, which was the draw for me. Big fan of Chris Weston.
Folks, don't forget Chris Weston. Does Chris Weston ink some G.I. Joe? No, who am I thinking?
You're thinking of Gary Erskine, who sometimes.
Okay, sorry. I couple of Brits who I get mixed up. It's okay that Mark's copy of Paranoid Gardens is still shrink wrapped because it has a die cut cover and it's easy to damage.
Oh, so it is. It's got this head sort of die cut there. I didn't notice that yet. Bird King by Crom, which is this sort of fantasy kind of story worlds that he's created.
You sold a bunch of that at my store.
He's sort of in the Mike Mignola kind of vein. Batman and Robin by is it Mark Wade with Chris Samney. Softcover edition collects the full 12 issues. Very much looking forward to that. I do tend to buy a lot of books and not read them very quickly. So what I have been doing to try and stem down the amount of books that I'm getting is to just add them onto a wish list, and instead of getting them straight away, leave them to other people to get me for a birthday or Christmas present. So these are all books that I've been holding off by myself for a while. Redcoat Volume 1, which it collects the first 7 issues.
Colored by Brad Anderson, who was coloring Andy Kubert's covers on G.I. Joe for Skybound. It's so pretty.
So the big draw for me there, the art of Brian Hitch. And then Friday, the complete series, nice looking hardcover from Brubaker and Marcos Martin on art. I believe originally produced as a digital only strip, and then collected.
And then 3 soft covers.
So that's my birthday reading. And thanks to everybody in the comments wishing me a happy birthday. There was also some other news that came out yesterday, which was this one.
Mass Crusaders working overtime. Oh, the other one?
Energon Universe special one shot. We got the detail, which is the same as the Free Comic Book Day. The Free Comic Book Day issue comes out on the Saturday of Free Comic Book Day, and then a paid version of that same content with different covers will be released the next normal Comic Book Day, which is the following Wednesday. So that is May the 6th. It will have 4 covers. Cover A will be a Pi-Par classified redacted cover here. What could Pi-Par possibly be drawing on the cover of this one? There is a G.I. Joe one with Hawk and Zartan in the mirror. This is a Jason Howard cover. There is then Howard. Oh, sorry, no, wrong way around. Howard Porter was the G.I. Joe one. Jason Howard, too many Howards on the cover C, with a currently as yet unknown female character with a Autobot sigil, so kind of reflected in the water in front of her. And then, the Connor Hughes Void Rivals cover with, it looks like a kind of a Junktagon or something. And on the belt, there's a Royal Guard helmet. So that is a bit of interest to it. And I believe there's also
a Cobra La Royal Guard helmet.
And then I also believe there's another redacted cover E, which is a Cedric Poulard variant. So we shall see what that one is. So this Energon Universe cover, this Energon Universe special will feature 4 stories, because it will feature G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals, and a 4th story, which has now been revealed, Tim.
Masked Crusader!
Mask is the mighty power that can save the day. Mask, no one knows what lies behind the masquerade. Mask, always right and hard to man astray. Come see the laser rays.
Sorry to interrupt you singing there with you singing.
That's okay. So, Mark, I think you called it. You were guessing that the classified 4th story in the Energon Universe special, Free Comic Book Day comic, would be Mask. And certainly there have been hints, because Matt Tracker has shown up in G.I. Joe and Miles Mayhem has shown up in Transformers. And Pi Par has now drawn more than one Mask-related cover, variant cover, right, in the Energon universe. Have there now been 2 that have been published, or am I just getting the one mixed up? Like I saw it twice.
He's certainly drawn. He's drawn a G.I. Joe cover, variant cover, which was the cover of Hound,
right,
with the blast, and there's a face in the blast,
yellow background. Okay, and then the one that we'll talk about in 2 minutes.
Yeah, so he's going to be doing the cover. He's going to be the interior artist, and he's going to be doing the cover A for the Mask launch. For those of you not really familiar with Pi Par, he did a series called Petrolhead, which was sort of all about a sort of a robot driving cars, and it's sort of very much fitting in this, the aesthetic of this kind of world. And he's very he's got a lot of pop to his art, a lot of energy, and it looks very nice, let's just say. So I've got a lot of confidence for him as the artist on this particular series.
The preview pages. So this was announced at Comics Pro. So Comics Pro is a retailer trade organization. If you own a comic book store, you can pay some dues and join Comics Pro. And then once a year, there's a meeting, it's not quite a convention, a conference. And it's been going for more than 10 years now. And a bunch of store owners go, and a bunch of publishers also attend. And some of it is the normal convention stuff, where they'll make announcements just to the retailers, right? There aren't tickets sold to the general public. But there are also like meetup groups and working groups and sort of discussions between store owners and other store owners, between store owners and publishers. And this is a place for store owners to tell publishers what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And Robert Kirkman delivered the keynote address at Comics Pro 2026 just this past week. And in his remarks, made this Mask announcement, made this reveal, which included, or then the press release went live. And so we got to see the full creative team, the summary for issue 1, all the covers and a couple of pages. And I gotta say, the art and color look really exciting. I would love this color artist to do more work on books that I'm reading. In general, I'm just really excited about Mask. Mask is one of those brands that I think it's, I'm not going to pick up, I don't want to pick on Thundercats or Thundercats fans, but, or DuckTales fans, because I love 1987 DuckTales. But I feel like Mask is kind of like DuckTales and Thundercats, the 80s ones, where people remember the theme song and they remember the best. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
They remember the best aspect of the show, like their favorite moment, or in the case of Mask and Thundercats, the toys. And then 10, 20 years later, they go back and they watch an episode and they realize that it's aimed much younger than they remember. And also is not as sophisticated as maybe something like the G.I. Joe cartoon or the G.I. Joe comic book. And I know I'm totally biased because I'm a G.I. Joe person and this is a G.I. Joe podcast. So I think there's a lot of sort of general goodwill for Mask, but not a huge Mask fandom. And I know that, is it the Loyal Subjects who've been making new Mask toys, kind of replicas of the originals, or recreated replicas of the originals. And that's really exciting. And it's exciting that, Hasbro is licensing out one of its brands, which it acquired. Mask was not. Mask in the 80s was a competitor of G.I. Joe. And in one of its acquisitions of other companies along the way, Hasbro grabbed Mask. So I think there's a lot of goodwill for Mask because it's a fun concept and people remember it sort of more or better than it was. But there isn't a lot. There are a bunch of episodes. I think there's 65 episodes. But I think basically no one has watched them except for a small hardcore Mask fandom. And they've been on like Tubi, and there was a DVD release like more than 10 years ago. Were there a couple comics? Was there like a 4-issue miniseries from DC? I can't even remember. But compared to G.I. Joe and Transformers, Mask did not stick around. And so there's not a clean slate, a blank slate, but we haven't said his name yet. Dan Waters, who wrote the Destro miniseries, is the writer on this. Dan Waters, particularly in launching out of all of the action and mystery of the Energon universe, has a real blank canvas, and the like art and color and pep of these preview images and the way that it was announced and the way that it has been built up in some Energon universe comics appearances so far. Even though there were Mask comics from IDW as recently as 7 years ago, this feels so exciting and brand new and ground zero. And I don't think it will be as big a sales hit as Void Rivals, G.I. Joe, or Transformers, but I do think it's a feather in Skybound's cap, and I can't wait because in a sentence, Mask has always been like the halfway point between G.I. Joe and Transformers. It's like specialists with cool costumes and code names with cars that half transform and like fly and stuff.
Yes, indeed. And it will be released in June. So June the 3rd will be when Mask issue number 1 comes out. But I would sort of hazard a guess that the Free Comic Book Day will basically be a prologue into that story. So it'll be an essential part of the reading. And yeah, I put it on the screen earlier, but there will also be a blind bag as well, sort of, which will, I think, create a lot of extra excitement. So I think the idea behind this will be that it will be about, plastic sort of polythene baggie with this image from Piper. It's a sort of a different coloured version of the A cover, and then you'll have a chance at getting one of the other main covers. So it looks like it's basically all of the main covers apart from the sort of the die cut mask covers, and the blank covers will be included in that. So it's a nice little fun way of gamifying the thing, as if you don't take it too seriously.
Now, several people asked me, this is not true, if when I sang that theme song at karaoke at Joe Fest this past June, months in advance of another Matt Tracker appearance in some Energon Universe comics and this announcement, did I know? And I did not. I was just riding the cultural zeitgeist, and I just picked the best possible song to sing at karaoke in 2025 at a G.I. Joe convention.
It could have been very easy that people would have be coming up to you and ask if you knew if DuckTales were joining the Energon universe, if you just made a different song choice.
I do have to say, Dynamite, the comics publisher, Dynamite Entertainment, there's a lot about Dynamite that is not my speed and does not float my boat. But man, Dynamite's DuckTales Monthly, which is based on not the 2007, 2017, but based on the 1987 DuckTales, it's good. That's a good comic.
Very good. So just to, I guess, tie this back to Joe as well, the mask has been a sort of a slow build, and it has been introduced in the pages of Transformers and G.I. Joe. So the Miles Mayhem story being told in Transformers and the Matt Tracker story being told in the pages of G.I. Joe. So we basically had a guest appearance from Matt Tracker. The image here is the design by Tom Reilly, initially appearing in the Free Comic Book Day issue, where Clutch came to ask him to help repair a Hound after he was sort of running low on Energon. And so that's where we saw him, and we'll see him again in the issue we're talking about today. And meanwhile, in the pages of Transformers, across about 3 issues, I think it was 25, 26, 27, we were introduced to Miles Mayhem, who had ingratiated himself with General Flag as, not exactly knowing what the plan is there, but studying the Transformers they had in their charge, and sort of eventually figuring out that he was up to no good, trying to put him under arrest. And then Miles Mayhem makes his escape in that amazing helicopter thing of his, which Tim will remind me is called...
Oh, I forget. The Hurricane, the Switchblade?
Switchblade, I want to say.
The Mayhem Storm.
And then at the end of this, Flag basically says, we backed the wrong guy. Can we get hold of Tracker? Because it sounds like Mayhem has been sullying his good name. So that will be that's kind of the lead up to Mask, and a sort of lead into the issue that we're talking about today.
Well, we're going to talk about the other thing that happened yesterday, right?
That thing.
Yes, folks. So people came to my store yesterday, and I said to them, "Are you here for our famous person signing?" And they were probably thinking of G.I. Joe 325. We had Larry Hama at Hub Comics, my comic book store in Somerville, Massachusetts. And certainly G.I. Joe 325 was a part of it. But this was kind of my release party for the Center Holds issue #1, this 4-issue miniseries that I put together with Larry Hama and Mark Bright, of which the first issue has been published by Boom Studios. So this was unusual because comic book stores tend not to have signings in February because of the weather. And the weather was going to be fine until 2 days before Hama traveled to Boston. They called for snow the morning of his travel. And it was light and over soon, so that was okay. But during his signing, the weather for the next day, which is now today that you and I are talking, was sort of upgraded from like a couple of inches to a lot of inches to a blizzard. So I do think, A, we got lucky, but B, attendance might have been higher had this been, and attendance was great, but it might have been even greater had this been in the spring or summer when a normal person would have a famous out-of-town guest come all the way just for this. So attendance was heavy for the first 2 hours and then was moderate. So folks, if you are thinking like, oh, this famous person is at that store, I couldn't possibly go. It'll be too crowded. It'll be too busy. You never know until you show up. And let's see, Talking Joe listener, Rich Borges came and was wearing a Talking Joe shirt, which is awesome. Clay Inferno and his podcast partner, Matt, who hosts the League podcast, they came and they had been promoting our signing. Erica Henderson came, and that's a 2-time Eisner Award-winning comic book artist who's currently writing and drawing and coloring the Harley and Ivy miniseries for DC. Erica's a friend, and she hung out with Hama for a while, and they chatted. Someone came from Maine, driving an hour from the north. Someone came from Rhode Island, driving an hour from the south. Someone brought classified toys to be signed. Several people brought their original issue 21 to be signed. Several people bought from me yesterday the new facsimile edition of issue 21 to be signed. Someone bought and got signed softcover compendia 1 and 2. We sold several IDW back issues. We sold several Skybound recent issues from the last 2 years. We sold a bunch of the Center Holds issue number 1. This was a 5-hour signing, which I think for a store signing is a bit long, but compared to, say, Larry Hama at a convention all day on a Saturday and all day on a Sunday was sort of moderate. And it was great. And when I forgot to get a photo of me and him with our comic book, my wife said, well, you have to do that now. That was yesterday. She said this morning, you have to do that now. So just before, Mark, you and I went live, I took Larry to the train station, and he is heading back to New York as we speak. He had a good time. We had a good time. And thanks, everyone, for coming out.
Very good. Where was it? This was a fascinating photo that you sent us me as well. I think this was a bit of a rarity. It was an Action Force issue. Is that like?
I think
one of the European ones, like Finland or something.
Yeah, it might have been Finland.
And here we go. Here's I was going to save this up, but let's put it in now. Here's Richard with his Talking Joe t-shirt, turning up, getting his Center Holds issue signed by not just Larry Hama, but Tim Finn as well. I don't know how many you signed yesterday, Tim.
Dozens and dozens. So with this sentence, I can sort of put a cap on the signing at Hub Comics that was yesterday. Folks, if you are in the Boston area, the events for the Center Holds issue number 1 don't end. I am going to be talking for an hour this coming Saturday. That is Saturday, the 28th. I will be talking at Kamikaze, which is a comic book store also in Somerville, Massachusetts. My small city right outside of Boston has 2 comic book stores, the one that I own and the one that I drive by when I go to my store. Kamikaze is a great store, and it's 6:30 p.m. this coming Saturday, the 28th. Manager Tom is going to do a fireside chat with me talking about putting together this book. And I have been so involved in proofreading issue 4 and prepping for my event that I haven't even made a graphic yet. Although, shoot, Tom sent me theirs. Maybe while you're doing the plot breakdown, I'll give it to you so you can put it up at the end of the episode. But if you're in the Boston area and you missed this and you still want to hear an editor talk about comics, that's coming up.
And I think for Richard, making the journey to Hub Comics and wearing a Talking Joe t-shirt, creating a lovely Venn diagram, Tim, of your world. Let's imagine 3 circles of a graphic that I've not created. Hub Comics, Talking Joe, and the Center Holds, all overlapping for one gigantic, particularly fulfilling middle. That this is it. So for helping that with the Talking Joe t-shirt, let's give Richard one of these. It's the Listener of the Week.
All right, here we go. All right, if I can stall for 20 more seconds. I just emailed you a picture, which is Kamikaze's promotional image for the Fireside Chat, which is being held at not my comic book store, but the other comic book store in Somerville, Massachusetts. And that is this Saturday, February 28th at 6:30 p.m. We're going to talk for an hour. I'm going to have a little slideshow on putting together the comic. And then apparently we're doing a signing, which I am delighted and flattered and embarrassed by, because I think editors can sign comics. I don't know how many people want them to, but for all the people who asked yesterday, that's lovely. Issue number 2 will be out in 5 weeks.
Cool. Yes. So if you've not yet got a copy, get in contact with your local comic book store and see if they can get a hold of one for you if they've not got one in stock. And certainly the future issues will be orderable. Right. So that is a long preamble. I think our longest preamble, but there was a lot of news to get into. So we'll move on proper to G.I. Joe number 19, which was brought to us from the team of writer Joshua Williamson, artist Andrea Milana, colorist Lee Loughridge, letterer Russ Wooton, editor Ben Abernethy, publication design was Andres Juarez, and production Abigail Lee.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Cover A of G.I. Joe 19 is drawn and colored by Tom Reilly. This is 3 characters and no physical backgrounds, just a burst of color. It's Duke and Clutch and Hound. Clutch is trying to keep Duke and Hound apart. They are headbutting. Duke is so angry, and his forehead is really actually slamming into the diagonal forward portion of Hound's forehead. Folks, if you get angry at an Autobot, don't fight it, because you are a 6-foot flesh bag and it is a metal man that's much taller than you. This cover is really fun because it's got a pink background, and that's so unusual for G.I. Joe comics. But it really pops, and there's a light sort of yellow peach burst centered behind where these 2 foreheads are butting. I really love the frustration on Duke's face, and Tom Reilly has drawn a subtly challenging angle on Duke, because we're looking slightly up and away at his head, because we are lower than him and his head is very slightly cocked back. If you like your G.I. Joe with your Transformers, this is the image for you. And it's just super fun. It's 2 big blocks of color, pink and green, and then that blue logo floating over it. Cover B is drawn by Joshua Cassara and colored by Romulo Fajardo Jr. Here is a team shot. CoverGirl, Duke, Stalker, Risk, and Baroness, and they're in the woods or a forest. There's some trees in the background. In the middle ground, there's some ferns and foliage in the immediate foreground. There's some atmospheric perspective pushing the 3 Joes in the background, and particular Stalker all the way back, even further back, with the bluish haze over them. They're sort of creeping and stalking to the right, although it's daytime. Oh, Stalker's knee deep in water. Couldn't even tell in the color treatment. Marks flashing up, not just the colors, but also the inks, so we can make a little bit of a comparison. Cassara has been doing some covers for Skybound, but in my mind is very much a Marvel artist. Has done a bunch of X-Force and Wolverine, one or the other or both. This cover, it's not a fight scene. All the 5 Joes have their weapons drawn. No one's firing, and they're not like running or sweating. Fun cover. Doesn't describe the issue, but cool, fun cover.
And there is a companion cover to this, which will be on the cover of issue 20, which is the Cobra characters looking left.
Okay. Cover C is drawn by Ben Oliver. The graphic you've put up says 1 in 10. I don't think cover C is a ratio variant. I think that's a mistake. Mark put up a Skybound graphic, so this isn't Mark's mistake, or it's my mistake.
Yeah, I'm seeing on the another list from Skybound. It doesn't say 1 in 10. So yeah, I think that there's a discrepancy there.
It's confusing because for a long time, C covers from in the Energon universe were 1 in 10s, and for this arc they stopped being. So this is Chameleon, and she's looking straight at us, head and shoulders, with a blue-gray background. Her hair is parted a bit, with her long hair in front of her right shoulder, but behind her left shoulder. She looks intense, but also quite attractive. And it's funny how when I think of her costume, I think so much of the red and black of her armor. And I sort of forget that she has any gear on her head, that she has, night vision goggles or anything. And when you do close up just on her head and shoulders, how important those goggles become as the major accessory.
Covers of Chameleon. They're out each month. Collecting would be easy if your books were less frequent. She's red, black, and blonde. Red, black, and blonde. She's not in this issue. Although, maybe she's in this arc. So maybe generally it's okay. Yeah, looking at this cover as well, I just realized that they have been quite fastidious, quite careful to make sure that both Chameleon and the Baroness are drawn with a kind of beauty marker, birthmark kind of there. And it appears to be missing from this particular image, whereas they are normally very careful to make sure that it does appear.
Is it possible that you have an early preview image and that was fixed for the printed edition?
It's possible.
We have some at my store. I'm not there right now. Folks, if you're watching this episode live and you're holding a copy of 19C, please tell us in the comments. The covered issue.
Oh, wait. And also while we're on this, I normally speculate on who might have been the real life inspiration for the cover from Ben Oliver. And I think for this one, it's got to be Anna Taylor-Joy, surely.
Maybe.
Off of that chess program and that thing about where she had a giant ditch that she was shooting across, that one.
Maybe. Cover D is drawn by Tonči Zonjić, and it is designy and cool. It's almost all white with this sort of red vertical gash down it, which is the silhouette of Duke's big laser machine gun rifle, which I don't think I realized had 2 triggers.
Yeah, I think one is the main pew pew bit, and the other one is the pachoom pachoom bit.
Oh, okay, great. And so in the space of this weapon, we see a portrait of Duke, but he's all in red and black. And then in the rest of the cover, sort of the white of the paper all around, there is a Decepticon jet who I'm going to guess by logic is Starscream, but I couldn't actually prove. Could also be Skywarp or Thundercracker, who's sort of stepping menacingly toward us. And I think since Duke has it out for Starscream, and I don't think Duke cares about Skywarp or Thundercracker, we're going to assume it's Starscream. The rest of this cover with the white background and the white Transformer, who's just inked with sort of red outlines, there are no colors to tell you which of those 3 Seeker jets it is. So that's how I'm guessing that it's Starscream. Shane Simic tells us in the comments that the printed version of G.I. Joe 19 cover C, Chameleon does not have a beauty mark. Thank you for that thank you for that fact check. So
and
error detected, Skybound.
on the I sent you an email with the link to Tonči's Zonjić, his website, his blog, where he sort of does like deep dive process discussions about creating a particular cover, and he's got a great write up of how he made this particular cover. And I think he sort of, the top images are, you might not realize it, his roughs for the issue, which look very similar to his finals. And then I think he did it in black and white, and then tried to recreate it as we see it printed on the page without any sort of digital color. So I think he ended up drawing it about 3 times, one of which didn't quite work and got discarded and thrown in the bin. But yeah, Tonči is sort of I think a bit of a master artist, really devoted to his craft, and with a little bit possibly of madness there as well, in terms of the amount of time and effort he will take to produce a cover as beautiful as it ends up being. Folks, in the end.
If you're listening and not watching, the images that Mark just showed are close-ups of brushes and pens and ink and resist, or like a withholding piece of paper, where if you like paint a chemical down, you can then put ink on top of it, and then you peel it up and the ink doesn't stick there. And when Mark sent me this image, I was really surprised that this was analog, because everything about this image just seems to me like, well, someone would have just done that natively digitally, because it's like it's the white and the white and the red and the black and the red, and you have these overlapping shapes. And why wouldn't you just do that on the computer in the first place? But then you don't have an object to sell if that's of interest to you, and also maybe it doesn't come out as well. I have a lot of discussion with my friends and sometimes former students about the difference between drawing on a piece of paper where you can use your whole arm, where your brain works differently, than drawing on your tablet or your Cintiq, your monitor, where your hand can only go as far as that piece of glass, and your brain thinks differently, and you have the undo key, and you maybe don't take the same risks, or you don't make a brushstroke, a pencil line the same way. So what a cool cover, and thank you for that share, Mark.
Good.
Okay, cover E is drawn by Trevor Hairsine and Andy Lanning. Do we know then who colored this? Oh, it is. Okay, it's on the back cover. Colored by Romulo Fajardo Jr. Trevor Hairsine has been drawing for Marvel and DC off and on for like 20 years. He did the Deadly Genesis Ed Brubaker X-Men miniseries, Drew Deceased, the zombie stories for DC Comics, and I can't remember if he's done an Energon Universe cover so far. Maybe not. But here we've got an action scene of Clutch and Hound, a human and an Autobot, sort of like jumping or coming down at us from maybe like the top of a sort of broken building, and there's smoke and fire in the distance. We're looking up at them, and the sort of background colors are all sort of dull purple and dull blue. It's like a nighttime or dusk attack, and the way that Hound's eyes are glowing, he looks a little bit menacing as he's coming down at you. This is a fun cover.
Very good. And the next one was originally solicited with a spoiler across it to avoid spoiling us too early. But it is in fact cover F 1 in 100 foil variant by Pi Pa, who we now know is the Mask regular artist.
This cover, in all the best ways, screams 80s color and style. There's sort of only 2 colors in this cover. There's red and there's magenta, right? You've got Matt Tracker's red car, and we're looking a little bit down on it, and it's parked straight on a grid It's red. The grid is red. But as the background sweeps away from us in the distance toward the top of the cover, it has a gradient to magenta. And red and magenta right next to each other or sort of mixing with each other can play a little bit of a trick on your eye because they read so similarly. There's a little bit of a reflection in the windshield of this light electric blue. And then you realize that there's some details all over the cover, like the actual grid lines, yellow, little bits of headlights on the car, yellow, lightning bolt detail on the hood, yellow. And then Matt Tracker is sitting relaxed in his car, but sort of half out, half in. And then you remember that what's the Turbo Hawk? This is what this car is called. His doors raise up the way that only a couple fancy sports cars raise. It doesn't open the normal way. And so to have him sort of sit there casually, he's ducking down a little bit. And then the logo, the G.I. Joe logo, is bright yellow. Such a fun cover. I don't buy variant covers, but if this was a regular like B or C cover, I would be tempted to buy a second copy of this comic and get this cover. And this was in the back of my mind yesterday as the news for the Mask publication, the new series. This is the artist and the covers and all the pages. And I thought, oh, the guy who did that really bright red cover that Mark was showing me recently. Awesome. So super fun. And then lastly, cover G is a foil die cut, which I think they're now sort of calling a foil mask cover. That's what it says on the back cover. That's a little confusing because mask now means a different thing. Like, yes, generically like a mask, but also like mask. And so this is Hound's head. So there's like the same way that we've seen with the Destro head and the Cobra Commander head. You've got sort of the white cardstock with a black burst on it, and then like a second sort of half cover where on the front you see the right side of someone's head, on the back you see the left side of their head, and that head is like a separate cutout that has been like stapled as a like second half cover. And this is drawn by John Amor. And it's also credited to Andres Juarez, who, as we have established, is the publication designer at Skybound. And I gotta say, it's doing a fun. My brain is like turning just a little bit on its side when I see a cover like this, and I see a Transformer that I know and love. Hound, he's my friend. He's an Autobot. And then up on the right it says G.I. Joe, or the previous image. Red car, guy in gray suit, mask, and the logo says G.I. Joe. And I know it's a shared universe, but I'm still sort of, there's like a tiny mental hiccup. Like, no, that's not that. That's the other thing. So.
Cool. And just one retailer variant this month, which is by George Vega, which I believe is a Black Saber Comics exclusive. So he also shared his process design for that of the original black and white. And George was keen to point out that he had drawn the trigger discipline on Duke. So you can see his pointy finger, not in the trigger guard, but sort of, held there in reserve to stop him unintentionally shooting at anybody, which is normal good discipline, but is actually slightly at odds in terms of what happens on the interior of this book, which we might get to in a little bit.
Just to do a quick one sentence on this, Duke is standing on the hood of the Awe Striker, and Hound, who is taller than him, is standing next to him and slightly behind him. Behind them is a burning vehicle and some bombed out buildings. Human, Awe Striker, and robots are all green. And then the background is very orange and sort of mustard yellow.
Cool. And I sort of had a bit of an error detected, which is a bit tenuous, but the Awe Striker does feature in the issue, but in the issue itself does not have the cannon on the top of the vehicle, which I think last time we talked about this Awe Striker, I speculated that possibly that could be a plot point, that there'll be some special Energon cannon that gets uncovered and added to the vehicle later on. That's my little speculation. Whether that happens or not, who knows? So that is the end of the covers. We can get on into the interiors with a plot breakdown.
Plot breakdown.
Hawk is Zartan in disguise. Oh, spoilers, by the way. Hawk is Zartan in disguise, but his life depends on Energon and his supply is running out. But with access to Cobra and G.I. Joe's files, he knows where to look. Elsewhere in the Chihuahuan Desert, in the aftermath of the Dreadnought War, Duke is reeling from the reveal of the Autobot Hound. He wants Hound and Clutch taken back to the pit for questioning. With a change of clothes and a proper conversation, Duke seems willing to work with Hound, but he needs to fix his transponder so they can contact Optimus Prime, something that Clutch thinks his friend Matt Tracker will be able to help with. And back at the pit, the team grumble about needing a break and more people and better gear. But Hawk Tan, or is it Zart Hawk, wants to send teams to get hold of Energon without any resting about. We flash back to Matt Tracker, who, following his encounter with Clutch and Hound in the pages of the free Comic Book Day Energon special from 2025, has disappeared off the grid. Until today, where he gets an encoded message to meet. He meets his contact, Agent Walker, at a racecourse. Walker reveals that Miles' mayhem has gone bad and he is offering him a chance to come back in. Their conversation is rudely interrupted by a missile fired by Scrap Iron, who says, "Long time, buddy." Mayhem says, "Hi." Phew. It feels like a quick read, this one, but when I started writing that plot breakdown, it took a while. It was longer than most.
Yeah, a lot does happen in this issue, and this is a really sort of fun. Many plot threads that we have been progressing for the last year or more all get checked in on here and moved forward. So this issue doesn't feel like a transition issue, like, well, what do you do after the Dreadnought War? Well, you got to take a break and slow things down. Maybe we'll just talk, or the Joes will have like some R&R and then they'll like stop a bank robbery. Like, no. Duke needs to yell at Hound for a page. Duke needs to kind of arrest 2 or 3 of his teammates. He's so angry. And I love Hound, and Hound is my friend. But as Duke's getting angry, I'm thinking, yeah, he has been lied to and betrayed by his, closest friend and comrades. And I was so excited. We've talked a lot about Mask so far on this episode. I was so excited to see Matt Tracker do several things this issue. And I really liked the detail where Matt Tracker meets his contact at a car race. That is such a fun decision to make that feels just the perfect note, right? Because, Transformers are cars and Matt Tracker drives a car, and what's an 80s thing? Like, I don't know, they could be at an air show, or they could be at like the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian, one of them, or they could be at a car race, right? And, they're not like at a botanical garden, and they're not just like meeting on a park bench out in the middle of a plaza in the city, right? It's like, where like Baroness's parents were almost shot by Raptor. Like, no. They're at a car race. That's really fun. And this isn't, Matt Tracker, he doesn't have a pony in this race. It's not one of his cars. He's not going to grab one of the cars or save one of the cars. But when I turned the page and I saw a car race, and I thought, oh, there's Matt Tracker in incognito. And then he's got a bit of funny dialogue. I thought, this is so much fun. And then on the next page, I was like, how many missiles or how many rockets are on this Scrap Iron's vehicle? But we should probably go back to the sort of the first 2 panels of the comic, which has this element of horror. Light. So it's not played as horror, but I take it as horror because, ever since the Cobra Commander miniseries, Mark, you and I have talked about when Joshua Williamson has checked in with the horror elements, which, you know, if you'd asked us more than 2 years ago, like, G.I. Joe as a brand, it's got some horror to it, right? We would have said no.
Mostly not. First page, yeah, that it definitely is more horrific. It's I guess a mask of Hawk,
Yeah.
which on the second panel is melting away. I'm getting the sense that this is a mask on because the dialogue isn't coming from the face or anything. This is a mask on some sort of mannequin, like holding it in place or some sort of support. And it's melting away. So I'm guessing that the technology that Zartan is employing for his disguises is connected to Energon. So he says that his ruse needs it and his life depends on it. That Energon is more than just a silly power source or a weapon. It's his creation, and his supply is running dangerously short.
Is he being general and grand, or do you think that it's keeping him alive in some way?
It seems to suggest it, yeah, that his technology that he's using for disguising is relies on it, but more than that, his life somehow might, to stay alive, he might need it somehow. It's it's vague, and it's giving us room for mystery to be uncovered in the future, I guess, or not.
And my next
like the
question,
chameleon blood in his bloodstream or whatever that was found by Doc back in the day and never followed up on again.
Wait, that's in the Marvel run?
In the Marvel run, yeah.
I forgot that. I have another question related to this Zartan scene. Pages 2 and 3 are this double page splash, which Andrea and Milana really knocked out of the park, considering it's just a guy standing in a big room. I love this. The camera is at like thigh height, so we're looking slightly up at Zartan, and he's got his arms folded, and he's illuminated by this big floating hologram of the Earth. And it's all casting the room in blue tones. And I noticed that there are 5 sort of crosshairs on this globe that we can see for Europe and Africa and the middle of the Atlantic Ocean for what must be energon deposits. But there's also 2 other dots above it, sort of in space, and they're not red dots, they're blue dots. And then based on sort of the triangulation of these lines, there has to be a third one off the page, like 2 inches higher than your comic book. Are those satellites? Is that like where a piece of Cybertron fell? Or is that energon deposits in space?
Good questions. I didn't pick up on that aspect. It's a good observation. We don't know, do we? But some of the dots, the North Atlantic islands, Northwest Africa, sort of Guinea-ish direction, Libya, Russia, all over the world. I wonder how much precision was put into the exact location of those dots. I'm imagining a relative amount of thought went into where they were. This scene, though, Zartan is definitely monologuing. Here. He is not talking to anyone specific as far as we can tell.
And he's not recording for a log and I'm okay with this. I think sometimes I'm really aware, like from the first 3 words of a word balloon, if someone is talking to me, the audience, in a conspicuous way in a comic book, because I generally don't think writers should do this. There should be someone in the room that they're explaining it to, or they should be recording a log, or they have to be like actually larger than life crazy. And I don't think that's quite what's happening here with Zartan. I don't quite know how it works, but it just works. That this didn't seem as sort of bad writing or conspicuous. I don't know why this Zartan would talk to himself, but it works. Maybe because he's spent so long undercover and he's, lost himself a bit that he can just monologue. Maybe I'm so excited for and hungry for the information that he's explaining that I was okay with it. There's one more detail here which I really like. And Andrea and Milana didn't invent this, but I'm noticing it now. These big computers that he's powering, both like hooking up to the internet and also to electricity, they have all these cables that are just snaking away from them. Like under the globe hologram, one of these bundles of cables goes up the stairs, to somewhere you can't see. That's just an added bit of realism for this base, for this room, this headquarters, where when you're learning to draw and you're trying to invent backgrounds and you don't realize that you can look at reference, that it's not cheating. It's like, how do I make this room look real? How do I fill it with just enough details that it'll be believable? And that is a complicated answer that I can't do in a sentence during a podcast about G.I. Joe comics. But adding a bit like this, these 1, 2, 3, 4-ish like bundles of chords, I guess they're 5. That's the start.
Mm-hmm. And I'm imagining as well the fact that he's so brazenly in his Zartan costume here, the fact that he's got a melting disguise and this giant globe and all, and these wires coming out and going up the stairs and looking a little bit on the fly, a little bit improvised, not quite fully there. If it was going to be a professional setup, that this is some sort of hidden base that maybe he's got in the pit underneath his main office or something like that. On the computer screen just behind the globe, there's one that's got the G.I. Joe logo and one that's got the Cobra logo. So those are the two databases. Just to echo your point, maybe he's lost in his role and monologuing. Maybe he's got some of that mental illness aspects that were have previously been alluded to with the character, and the fact that he's so deep cover that he can't necessarily talk to people, so he has to end up talking to himself. Or maybe he's got the Zartan Hunt for Energon YouTube channel that he's just starting up.
I wonder if this bit of dialogue is inadvertently even years out or just months out, giving us the name of an upcoming story arc, The Hunt for Energon.
Yeah, it does feel like it, doesn't it? It's sort of a soft launch of the new arc. Possibly the next, trade paperback will be subtitled "The Hunt for Energon" or something like that. So we checked in with Zartan, and then we're back in the Chihuahuan Desert with Duke and Hound, and to some degree, sort of, I felt like this issue was slightly less impactful because it did feel like they were doing a little bit of business of sort of moving along certain bits of plots to get to the next element. And this kind of felt a little bit like one of those things that Duke is very skeptical of Hawk, but he has to go through that cycle of sort of gaining, challenging him, gaining acceptance, and then sort of eventually kind of bringing him into the fold. So it kind of feels like we're kind of going through kind of the arc on that element that we might expect.
Just a tiny bit of housekeeping. The page that's on screen right now, and maybe the other pages from this scene that you're showing us, are unlettered versions. So yes, folks, if you're watching this and thinking, "Oh, Hound is just staring down Duke," there are word balloons. Oh, there we go. Okay.
I'm just giving the unlettered versions a bit of visual appeal.
What I thought was a really, I've said before, one of the things that I don't think about in terms of writing, but I really appreciate good writers who do, is keeping track of who knows what and who knows who and who has met who and who doesn't know what yet. And there's a panel on the page after this that I really appreciate. It's 2 panels where Duke says, "Are you all keeping secrets from me?" And Baroness shrugs her shoulders. What a great bit of body language. "This is all brand new to me, comrade." And CoverGirl, who's got an eyebrow cocked and looks, irked and incredulous, has her arms crossed and says, "Same." And I just, that in this scene, not this page, in this scene, Risk says, no. This is a helpful, scary giant alien robot. Yeah. And then Clutch has what's probably the line of the issue, which feels, it I'm not being cynical here. I feel like if I was in a cynical mode, I would think, well, that line was written by a vice president or a marketer or something, someone who like told Joshua Williamson to put this line in. That's not how I feel. I feel like this line is really earned and really like old school 80s. Like I'm sort of pumping my arm, like fun and great, like, yeah, which is, Clutch makes this case across 5 word balloons that no, this is a good guy, that Duke has to be okay with this, and he's sorry for lying. And Clutch gets between Duke and Hound, and he says, Hound is a G.I. Joe. And this may not make any sense to some of the listeners. Like, that line feels really 80s. It just feels like a feel-good line that's sort of written for kids. It sort of feels like Goonies never say die, you know, like not a slogan. And again, I'm not trying to be cynical. I loved this line, and I feel like if the Energon universe were not done as well, if the writing were hacky, if the reveals were cheaper, if the art wasn't as good, if there were too many comics, I would have gotten that line and thought like, yeah, okay. But instead I thought, yeah. Also, it helps that, you know, Andrea Milana draws, you know, a nice expression here, and it is POV. It is from Duke's angle. This panel Duke having just been knocked down by Clutch in the previous 3 panels.
Yeah, and he's looking up at Clutch and Hound here. The sequence is a little bit remarkable by the fact that it looks like that Duke is taking a shot at Hound here, essentially, to my point about the kind of the trigger discipline earlier, that what I'm seeing here on the top of this panel is him, you know, taking a shot, and it sort of, is it bouncing off Hound here?
I can't tell. So Duke previously was holding 2 weapons, one in each hand. And in this top panel on this page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, page 6, panel 1, Clutch is tackling him and pushing him out of the way. And I think what's happening from the sort of depth of it is that the blast is firing off into the air in front of Hound. It is not hitting Hound and ricocheting. I think there's still like 10 feet between where that blast is going off and Hound's chest.
Yeah, you're probably right, but it does feel like Duke is being a little bit reckless. That panel just immediately before that kind of question mark ricochet looks like when he's reacting to Hound, who's sort of leaning in there. I'm sorry for your loss. You must understand that I did not. And then he says, "Back off!" And there's a click and a sort of a glow. Which looks to be the Energon weapon sort of charging up or about to fire, and then the element of Clutch kind of jumping in to kind of mean that he doesn't actually shoot at Hound. But yeah, a little bit of recklessness there, I thought, which was a little bit surprising.
He's trying to shoot at Hound. He gets a shot off. It fires up in the air. I think part of what we're reacting to is that we're so used to in many, many other G.I. Joe comics, hundreds of other G.I. Joe comics, that even though there are a lot of differences in their personalities as defined in their file cards, you know, this one thinks highly of himself. This one is like a smooth operator. This one is friends with everyone. This one's the best of the best. And like, you know, no one can keep up. Because they're all the best of the best, and because they're all good under pressure, there isn't here. In Green Lantern, you have Hal Jordan, who's, you know, supremely confident. You have Guy Gardner, who's a jerk. You have John Stewart, who's tough and has like a very different backstory than Hal Jordan has had to prove himself in different ways. And so if you put 2 of them or 3 of them together, you get these dynamics. And in a lot of other G.I. Joe comics, You don't have like one who's a jerk and one who's, bragging, because they're all just sort of like, they've all got to be cool and smooth. And so you don't have these like big personality differences to a great extent. And then here in the Energon universe, we have this Joe who's undergone this terrible shock and this loss back in Transformers 2 and that flashback in Duke #1. And the team, although it's formed, it's still like coming together. This is still the very beginning of G.I. Joe. And so we've never seen like a reckless Duke or a Duke who takes this many risks this often. And it's a little shocking because it's not like the Duke we know from the other comics, but it does feel earned here. And I think it also works because it's such a small cast of characters that we can keep coming back to it. Whereas if this was the G.I. Joe that Larry Hama was writing at Marvel and we were this many issues in, it's like, well, the Duke toy has been phased out. So Duke's not going to be in the comic anymore. So if you thought you were starting to get to know him as like, top shirts or hothead, it's like, no, now we got to introduce like the 86 guys.
Yep. Greg points out that Duke loses the weapon in his left hand as he's firing. He's got, one in his right hand, which is the one that fires, but then the other one seems to be knocked out by the impact of Clutch Rugby tackling him.
But which one was powering up on the previous page? The one in his left hand. Huh. So shouldn't that... Okay. All right. Here's what I think is happening. I don't think this is technically a mistake. Good comment, Greg. Thank you. I think what's happening here is that the white curve, that's the like motion line of a weapon of Duke's being pushed out of the way as he's pushed out of the way. Whereas the diagonal line that's in front of, let's say, Hound's shoulder is the blast that's coming off from the gun that's now floating in air. And I think that diagonal line should be like yellow or pink or something. And the white curve could stay white with all of the other white speed lines in the background sky. So I think there's sort of two things happening at once, and without more careful coloring. Yeah, basically sort of almost every issue now of like G.I. Joe or Transformers has one panel like this. Remember there was the scene where CoverGirl and Baroness were fighting or fake fighting, and you and I thought that like, wait, did someone just break someone's spinal cord? Right? Because there's that big crack sound effect. Like, no, that wasn't that at all. And I think the editors and the colorists and Andrea Milana, it's like one panel every issue where everyone just needs to go back to it one more time and just make sure that things are not unclear, but more clear.
Mm-hmm. And a nice bit of storytelling or character here in this one is the way that, where is it here? It's on this panel with the big hound where Stalker is talking to Duke and sort of demonstrating that he's the grown up in the room, the one with the little bit more of the level head, and he's sort of, he I think is come from a position where he has got some sort of like leadership background that we kind of think of Duke as being the leader, but here Stalker is kind of talking to him as if maybe he's his commander or at least his equal of telling him to kind of stand down and get put himself together a little bit. He says, "Duke at ease, soldier." Yeah, and then I'm no fan of these big robots. I hate surprises, but I'd really like to get the hell out of this desert. I think we need to take a deep breath, step back, and then work on getting some answers together. Okay, and I think he's played a similar role at trying to diffuse the situation a few issues back when Duke was getting all hot-headed about risk, if you remember that particular bit of confrontation.
Both of these examples you've brought up make me wonder if this is Joshua Williamson doing his version of referring back to Stalker's 1982 file card. Because isn't he in charge of a street gang like back in, I don't know where, Detroit or New York?
Yep.
From where he comes from. And is that sort of Joshua Williamson sort of turning that a little bit and saying, well, he can mediate.
Yeah, and also I feel like A-Ra, he was often the, a field commander or a sort of a sub-team leader, that kind of thing. So yeah, very much the established a kind of leader role, even if not necessarily always thought of, from your first, thought of who are the leaders in G.I. Joe. But yeah, here we go. Greg calling out the exact quote: Stalker was a warlord of a large urban street gang prior to enlistment. And he was also back in the ARA days, he was like, I don't know, was it the sergeant in the field when they were in Vietnam, heading up that long range recon patrol as well. So there we go. That is them in the desert, and Duke is able to be talked around and brought back to a place where at least they will go back to the pit and talk things through. But yeah, he says, Stalker, Cover Girl, take them in. Clutch 2, take them where? To the pit. I want to know everything. I don't know if they've got handcuffs quite big enough for Hound, but there we go.
That's a good segue, because a couple pages later, Hound is in a jail cell, and he's sitting and hunched over, because and Clutch and Duke are standing outside looking in. And oh wait, no, you know what?
It might not even be a jail cell. That's something they're trying to improvise as a jail
I think
cell.
that might be a gantry elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's funny. Right, yeah, because that might be that might be the biggest thing. Also, he's agreeing to be in their holding cell. He could quickly smash his way out.
But it does feel very much like Duke is fairly quickly brought around to having Hound on the side. I think sort of the some of that heat comes down, and he can see that actually he trusts Clutch. Hound was on their side during that battle. There's no other than his precondition to kind of want to get his revenge on the robots that killed his friends. He can kind of actually see that he's probably one of the good guys, and yeah, he's sort of quickly comes around. Okay, let's say I'm willing to work with you here. I need more. You say you're a soldier like us, so that means you've got a superior officer, someone you answer to, and we're laying the breadcrumbs for meeting Optimus Prime, which, given that we've seen some future covers, is probably not too far away.
I just want to remind us that Duke freaking out in the desert and yelling and picking off a shot towards Hound, it's not just the betrayal of Clutch and the lie, and there's been a Transformer here this whole time. Who's in charge? I'm in charge. I'm supposed to be in charge. It's like 6 hours earlier, 12 hours earlier, Duke was hanging from like a meat hook in an attic, house of horror film, slaughterhouse, road pig, dreadnought war. So I think Duke is, both compartmentalizing and also in the desert scene here, panicking or reacting. Or I also love sometimes you see a bit of body language or character acting, and it's so natural that you just sort of shrug your shoulders and say, well, yeah, I guess anyone would have drawn Hound sitting that way in this like holding cell or like freight elevator. But when you turn the page and Clutch and Duke are standing there and in front of the like yellow and black sort of diagonal, danger, caution painted lines, and Hound is sitting in this, I think it's an elevator, but his feet sort of go below the floor, and also his rocket, his shoulder mounted rocket, goes above the like top of the garage door. I don't know quite what to call it. So whatever that space is in there, it's a little taller than like the hallway that they're in, or the doorway. But Hound he's sitting, and it sort of looks like he might be on a bench. I don't know, some crates. He's sitting. He's hunched forward a little bit. He's resting his arm on his knee, and he's got his other arm around, and he's sort of turned toward us, and he's talking. And it's really subtle, and it's just great. Like, there were Marvel artists in the 80s who were drawing Transformers as really stiff. Like every time they were drawn, they just looked like the model sheet. Just like I'm squeezing my shoulders up and sort of turning my head back a little bit. It's like standing straight up like a chess piece. And certainly many, many wonderful artists have drawn Transformers like exaggeratedly and naturalistically in the many years since then. So Milana didn't invent this, but part of what's making it easier to accept a Transformer in this G.I. Joe comic, because in theory I don't want any, is how much of a caring soul Williamson and Milana puts into Hound's character, both in what he says and then like his expression 2 panels later. And it's really subtle, and I think it may just be coming from the dialogue and the context. It's not like the kindest, most expression. He's sort of speaking with some determination. He's almost frowning. No Autobot would ever cover for the actions of a Decepticon, especially Starscream. He is devious and violent, right? He's like, it's not a lecture, but he's sort of catching up Duke, who doesn't know, right? The Autobots and Decepticons have been at war for many years, right? And now Hound is reliving some nightmares of his own. I just really like this page, and I'm always excited when an artist draws an Autobot or Decepticon as not just a robot, but a character. And, that's body, and that happens a lot, right? It's much more common than it used to be. I've been thinking like, oh man, if Andrea Milana, if they needed to double up, it's like, oh, Tom Riley's drawing the next G.I. Joe arc, but like we need Milana to do something. Well, but he could go over and do some issues of Transformers. I like his Transformers.
And in this scene as well, I think Duke's getting a bit of a resolution as to this mystery of what happened with Starscream and the death of his friend. That to this point, he's sort of just really known that it's this transforming jet thing. And now it's kind of coming together a bit, that there's these good Transformers, bad Transformers, and this particular one that killed your friend, we've now got a name. It's Starscream. So I think that helps structure or sort of pinpoint where Duke needs to be focusing his anger now. It's not on this all robots. He's now got a specific robot that he knows is the one that he wants revenge on.
And if we have inadvertently found Skybound's name for the next story arc, the Hunt for Energon, perhaps the story arc after that can be the Hunt for Starscream.
Could be. So the other big, while we're in the pit, hanging about in the pit, we can probably stay here for a bit longer. So the Joes are back at the pit, which is still looking to be under some degree of construction. Stalker is sort of, talking about the fact that they kind of, it's on the back foot in terms of their resources and weaponry, and Hawk doesn't want to sort of explore that. He wants to keep the team small, and what is the words that he uses? Something like he wants to just have it filled with people that he can trust, or something along those lines, which is somewhat ironic. So yeah, he wants to keep the team much smaller. He doesn't want to expand the ranks to 300 Joes, but he wants to send them straight back into the next mission, and splitting into smaller teams to go venturing around the world, with Baroness Stalker and Risk going to Bad Hickistan, which is not a new invention for the G.I. Joe world. This was something that I believe that Brandon Jerwa created in his Devil's Due run, which was the location of Cobra's Monolith base at the time. And CoverGirl will be looking for Snowjob. So we are sort of following up on a thread introduced in the pages of the Scarlet miniseries. So Snowjob was the person who dropped off Scarlet and then got a bunch of intel from her at the end of the episode. He's lost eyes on an undercover agent that might have info we need. Who could that undercover agent be, do we think? It's Scarlet.
Did you say this specifically, that Hawk says, I'm splitting everyone into smaller teams?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Baroness Stalker Risk, go to Badhikistan. Cover Girl is looking for Snow Job. Duke and Clutch. And it's not it gets interrupted. So we don't actually know what the next what the rest of that sentence was going to be, where he was going to send them or how he was going to use them, because then he says, where are they? And then we cut to that scene you and I just spoke about, where they're talking to Hound. Do we talk about Matt Tracker now?
Let's do it.
So I want to point out that Matt Tracker is on 7 pages out of this issue. And if you count page 20, if you count the final page, the full splash page where we're looking up at Scrap Iron, you don't see Matt Tracker, but it's his dialogue and it's still his scene. So if you count that, Matt Tracker is on 8 pages. That's almost half of this book. And so suddenly the 1 in 100 foil cover for this issue of G.I. Joe that we're reading right now feels totally earned. And Matt Tracker is really boring in the 1980s Mask cartoon. I'm sorry, folks. I like that cartoon, and I do watch an episode like every couple of weeks. I think I've in my in 2025, 2026, I think I've rewatched like the first 10 or 12. When I was a kid, folks, I believe it was on while G.I. Joe was on. I had 2 independent stations in my area that ran cartoons and not like talk shows or like the news. So like one of them had G.I. Joe and Transformers, and the other one had like GoBots or Mask or something. So I mostly didn't watch Mask. And then I think for its second season or its second year, it moved to the USA Network. I think it moved to cable. Maybe that was the third year. Or it went away. I don't remember. But I, at the time, did not watch most Mask, although my brother and I did have a bit of the toys, and we thought it was cool. But I think we were sort of absorbing that the cartoon was good, but not amazing, whereas G.I. Joe was almost always amazing. And so part of my like happiness about Matt Tracker here is that he's not like a stale character. You know, he like draws a gun on Clutch, like this flashback panel you're reminding us from the Energon special. And this 4-panel sequence in issue 19 where he's not on the run like a fugitive panicking, but he's like carefully trying to throw anyone off his trail. And it's this 4-panel sequence of him in front of Big Ben, him in front of a Japanese temple, him in front of some mountains. I'll just say it's the Alps, and then him in front of a pyramid. And, both fun and also a workout for artist Andrea Milana to do. Wordless.
Yeah. It's a 4-page sequence of him going to these different places. 4-panel sequence. I thought the third one was maybe Brazil, something like that. He's in shorts and a t-shirt, so it's warmer. But anyway, it's somewhere that isn't completely clear. But sort of my initial take reading this was that he's sort of just creating a trail that's going to be hard to for someone to find if they're tracking him. Tracking. Because he's going from place to place. They have to, they'll have to follow his trail. But I also then had the thought maybe he's also on his own submission. Maybe he's on his own thing, going around the country, just like the Joes are doing. That maybe he's going to these places with a specific mission in mind.
Do you think he's working overtime fighting crime?
He could be. Greg wonders whether the third image could be Boulder Hill.
Okay, so speaking of very good. Speaking of, it's fun. A much taller, exaggerated one, but hey, it is the Energon universe. Speaking of play sets or bases, I don't think we knew this, that after his cover is blown, when he says goodbye to Clutch and Hound after helping them, did we know that he blows it up? That's new
No,
here,
we
right?
we just see them. They sort of picked up essentially where we saw him last, of them saying goodbye. And I think he might have hinted that he would then would have to move.
Right.
But
You won't
we
see
didn't
me
see
again.
him. Yeah.
So two things. One, that adds a lot of heft to that scene that we thought we knew. Like, oh, he'll just, like abandon it. No, he blows it up, but he really blows it up. It's a big explosion.
It's
And-
possibly inadvertently making more attention than he might have otherwise had.
Yeah, okay. I think logically you're correct, but I think in the world of like exaggerated comics, we sort of accept it as like big enough to be exciting, but not so big that it's like, sir, geosynchronous satellite is detecting a weird explosion in the middle of nowhere. But also, small tiny thing. I think the panel before it blows up, when he pushes a button, and the sound effect is beep. I think he's holding a lighter, a cigarette lighter, but I think it's a little device that is rewired as a detonator, and it may just be a very cool detonator that happens to look like a cigarette lighter. But I do like the bit where, okay, this guy's going to build a car that can kind of half transform into a plane and all that stuff. So his cigarette lighter, right? Like his gas station is also his secret base in the side of a building. So his cigarette lighter, and no one's going to smoke in this comic, his cigarette lighter has actually been redesigned as a detonator for his crazy bombs that are planted all over his makeshift garage base.
I picked the wrong day to start smoking. Accidentally blew up your base.
Okay, and then so he gets this communique when he's in the forest in an RV.
An indeterminate forest in a indeterminate RV.
It could be the United States, it could be international, but it's got a satellite dish. And he is in his Matt Tracker costume. He's in his jumpsuit, his gray jumpsuit with red gloves. So it's not. And his mask is on the table behind him. So it's not like he's undercover in those 4 previous panels where he's just wearing shorts or wearing a hoodie. So he's very much working here.
Overtime.
Thank you. So he gets this communication, and then when we jump ahead to this subplot a few pages later, and he meets his contact at this car race. I think I know the answer to this. I just want to absolutely be sure. Mark, this guy that he meets, Agent Walker, who has not a mustache. It's no mustache, right? It's just one panel where like there's some ink lines over his lip.
Yeah.
Okay, no mustache. Excuse me. So he's got a guy, and his hair's combed a certain way, and he's got sunglasses, and he's a spook or a man in black or something because he's wearing a jacket and tie. Agent Walker. Just to be absolutely certain, we don't know who this is, and we've never seen this guy before, right?
Correct. I did wonder if it might be an Easter egg to something, and I did a bit of Googling to try and say, was it that CIA guy from Special Missions, who I think is probably an Anderson, or was it the same name as that guy from the end of the latest Transformers movie, The Rise of the Beasts? No, that's a different name again. And the only Agent Walker I could find was the Marvel character who is the not Captain America guy.
Right.
What's his name?
You scared it out of me.
The one with the kind of the grey Captain America costume.
But did you watch 65 episodes of Mask to make sure that this isn't somehow a deep cut Mask character or one of the costumed codenamed Mask agents? I bet it's not, because he looks like a government guy, not a superhero guy.
Yeah, and not incredibly good at being undercover as well, because he's standing out like a CIA spook in a crowd. But we don't have to worry about him too much, because it does look like he is fully blown up in that in one of those panels when Scrap Iron shoots his missiles.
Okay, so I'm just going to come back to this little note here that I touched on earlier. So there's this spread across 2 pages. It's the top half of a left page and the top half of a right page. And again, I think Andrea Milana's art is incredible. It's so kinetic. His like stylized lines, his body language, speed lines, drawing, tech and vehicles and clothing. It's all great. I was a little confused by, and this is art and writing and color. So there's this monster truck and it crashes into this arena and there's an explosion. So it's driving through this explosion and there's a big boom. So I think it like fired a missile and made a hole and then drove through it. But I'm not sure. And I'm looking up close on this panel with the giant boom, right? The second to last page of the issue. And I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4 missiles on the top rack and 3 on the bottom on the back of this monster truck. So, okay, I think he fired one to get in. But it's such a tiny detail. Like, I sort of didn't see the rocket launcher on the back of the monster truck because it's far away. So I thought, oh, was there like some tanks of gasoline? And when scrap iron, when the monster truck drove through, it like blew up something else inadvertently. Like, was there a gap or a hole? Like, why is there an explosion? And then 3 panels later, right, the panel that you just referred to, Matt Tracker is like sort of lunging out of the way as a bunch of the like audience stands where he was sitting gets blown up, and Agent Walker's word balloon is interrupted, right? No way, I was careful. I know what I'm doing. No one could have known I was boom. So I think another rocket has gone off. And I'm on record as saying I want Scrap Iron to use his rockets, right? Because it's the 3rd G.I. Joe action figure I ever got. And, it's been beefed up for the classified line. And I wish he would use them in a Real American Hero universe. Okay, so then I turn the page and it looks like a full load of rockets. And I know we can't see them all, and then in the letters page,
he is stood in front of the rocket launcher though, so we can see
true.
5 rockets and hints of a 6th. And we saw initially it looked like it was a full rocket launcher complement of 8. So he could be stood in front of 2 empty slots there.
Okay, the page 1819 where the monster truck is coming in, the missing rocket is from the right side. From the right side that we see, it's the left side of the monster truck, the driver's side. But there are rockets in those 2 like hatches on the final page. And I know this is a really small continuity error, like, oh, he used a rocket, but then like the rocket had been replaced, or well, he seems to have fired 2 and he's not like really blatantly showing Tim 2 empty hatches in the rocket launcher. This is a very small thing. But to me, what it represents is I see this big explosion and I don't know how it happened. And maybe the argument is like, well, neither do they. It's like, you are with them, Tim. You're like a step behind. You just see some explosions and some violence, but also like all the cars that are racing are all getting thrown really far from the explosion. And it's like, where is this explosion happening? Like, were the cars all way over there and they all got thrown? And again, this feels like I'm nitpicking, but what I'm trying to say is I think the scripting of this scene, the choreography of where everything is, how powerful the things are, and precisely what happens, I think Williamson and Milana and maybe Loughridge and the editor are like, just need to do another little pass just to firm all this up. I feel like it's a little bit disconnected. And in reading this really exciting shock, someone just showed up, there's this violence, this guy dies, I turn the page, there's a reveal. I couldn't tell it was Scrap Iron. Sorry. Cause I was like, oh, is that Mercer? And like, I know I should have known because of the scar, but like, and then I read it. Oh, Scrap Iron. And then I get to the first sentence from the, editor Ben Abernethy. And he tells me Scrap Iron driving a monster truck with rockets. What could be cooler? And I thought, oh, that's what happened. They're rockets. Well, I barely saw them. So I know this feels like I'm nitpicking. What I'm trying to say is, for such an awesome idea of like an action sequence, and for such a cool return reveal for Scrap Iron and such an awesome ending for an issue. I got distracted while I was reading it, trying to figure out a little more precisely what's happening. Like, wait, why are all the cars flipping over and they're on fire? Like, were all of them right there? Like, I don't know what happened. So that's all.
Yeah, I'm with you on some of that. So, I mean,
okay.
I think the
Just-
empty
just
slots
what's
I'm
up?
less worried about. I think it's clear it's Scrap Iron in a giant monster truck. I think the flipping of the other cars is a little bit weird or unexplained, but I didn't necessarily worry about it at the time. So there's a little bit there, but I'm going with it. I did notice that I had queued up, but not used in a while, a particular jingle earlier today, and I thought, will I ever play that again? I thought, maybe we can.
Here come the nitpicker,
Timmy Finn,
and a little cool prankster,
Timmy Finn,
picking holes in your colouring.
Timmy Finn,
Still love G.I. Joe.
Timmy Finn. There we go. That's enough of that one. It was a long one. So we haven't played that in a while.
I'll
the
just-
nitpicker song.
Basically, if all the race cars, if half the race cars here were like just skidding out, two of them are getting bashed, the ones that are closest to the monster truck. If those were on fire and getting bashed, I don't think I would have had a problem. But I was like, what's going on? Oh, this is confusing. Wait, now that I'm thrown off, I'm gonna like not follow it carefully because I'm distracted. That's what it was. It's like cars flipping up in the air. It's like, no, that's something. Is Scrap Iron using an earthquake machine? Are there bombs underground? It's like, what's happening? Okay. Anyway, but it was a cool comic, and how do you feel about Scrap Iron coming?
I had one little I spy, which is that I wondered whether this orange monster truck was an intentional callback to the firecracker vehicle from Mask. It certainly seems to have a lot of similar characteristics in terms of the look, but also the way that the vehicle opens up to kind of reveal, kind of a section that I think a motorbike comes out of, kind of makes it look like it's a kind of a raised monster truck. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's what it brought to mind for me.
It's funny because the last 3 times there was any tiny mask thing, I think I said to you, is this a mask vehicle? And this time I was so distracted by the 37 things I was just listing, of which 12 of them, anyway, that I forgot. It's like, oh, this might be a mask vehicle. I wonder if this will be a mask vehicle.
Cool.
I have a general question that I just want to put out there for listeners and viewers and you, Mark, sort of as we're now entering, as the press release calls it, Energon Universe Phase 2, which includes Mask. How interested are people in Mask? I don't mean historically. I mean, now that the groundwork has been laid and there's a Mask guy running around in almost half of this comic, are you probably going to buy the Mask comic? Are you looking forward to more Mask? Do you think the Energon universe, as slowly as it's introduced Mask, is going too fast? Do you think Skybound is biting off more than it can chew? What does everyone think? It's coming, and for the longest time, it's like just 3 books, just 3 books, just 3 books. Oh, 4 books.
I think from my perspective, when IDW launched Mask as a new comic back in when it was 2017-ish, yeah. I had close to 0 interest in that. I read the direct crossovers that I needed to read to understand the G.I. Joe story, but more than anything, it was a distraction of like, I'm not especially welcoming this shared universe, and I would just rather they stayed apart. And I didn't buy any of the Mask stuff that wasn't that. I think there was like a launch issue that was written by Aubrey Citizen that I got, but beyond that, I didn't get any of the other stuff. And I'm in a very different place now, where because it's been sort of more organically seeded through the pages of both Transformers and G.I. Joe, it sort of created a little bit more interest, and I want to see a bit more where the story is going to go, particularly if there's going to be more crossover points. But also, I've got a lot of confidence in the creative teams that they've been picking. So, Dan Waters and Piper, I'm sure are going to create a good book. So I'm definitely more willing to give it a fair shake and to, pick it up, and for, to give them, benefit of the doubt, essentially, that I'll get this and I'll go with it for a few issues. And if it goes off, just doing masky things that don't interest me, then maybe I'll stop reading it, possibly. But certainly for the beginning, I feel excited for it, and definitely willing to give it a fair shake and a try.
Cool.
Drop in the comments what everyone, if you've got thoughts and whether you think this will definitely be a definite purchase, or whether you feel like it's enough removed from G.I. Joe that maybe you won't give it a try. So I think we're pretty much done talking about issue number 19. So we can talk about what else is going on. Tim, do you want to give us a reminder for the people who might have missed the beginning or didn't make a note of it, some of the things you're up to?
Yeah, 6 days from today, at the other comic book store in Somerville, Massachusetts, not the one that I own, but the other one, which is called Kamikaze, which is a great store. Lots of toys, lots of graphic novels, gaming. I am doing a fireside chat with the manager. He's going to talk to me about the center holds and putting together a comic book with Boom, with Larry Hama and MD Bright, and it's free. And it's Saturday, the 28th of February at 6:30 p.m. And I'm going to talk for an hour because I have a lot to say. And it's so nice to be asked.
Very good. And what else is going on, and where can you be found?
Smart, funny videos on YouTube at Atomic Abe, the aforementioned comic book store, Hub Comics. And I write about G.I. Joe at my blog, arealamericanbook.com.
Very good. And we will be looking at more G.I. Joe as it comes out. We won't be doing deep dives into into Void Rivals, but we'll be paying close attention and give a little bit of a recap next time. We've got Transformers coming out on March the 11th, and G.I. Joe issue number 20 will be coming out in about a month's time as well. So in that particular issue, issue number 20, released 18th of March, Optimus Prime and Duke meet for the first time. What does this mean for the future of the Energon universe? If you can't wait, there are, I think, 3 preview pages that are available. And as with all of G.I. Joe news and content, we share those on our Facebook page. So head on over to the Talking Joe Facebook page to find that link.
Also, I just want to posit that as exciting as that very short summary for the upcoming issue is, Duke and Optimus Prime meet for the first time, that might only be 6 pages, a really good 6 pages. And I bet we'll have some pages with, like Risk on his mission and, Zartan in disguise. And so can't wait.
Very good. Also in the shops before we know it will be the April month of Silent Missions. So 5 new issues from assorted creators, 1 per week. They will be on sale weekly, April 2026. So make sure, if you've got a standing order with your local comic book shop, ask them to make sure that they are adding on the silent missions titles for you as well. We'll keep you up to date with the news of the Kickstarter as all of the news around that comes out. We should be talking to Alex Antone during March as well. So as well as talking all things silent missions, I'm sure we'll be getting into the detail of what to expect with the hardcover compendiums. So I think that is most of the things. So if you're new to Talking Joe, talkingjoe.co.uk is the website where we can be found. That points you to all of the places we are at, including Instagram, Twitter, Facebook page. Get on involved in the conversation there. It also points you towards our patreon.com/talkingjoe. Big thanks to Richard, Sam, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, D, Shane V2. This one, Tim, I'm lost.
Drives a red Camaro and the doors open up vertically.
Infinite Entertainment, Patrick, Gary V, Coldroff, and B. They're getting early access and exclusive ad-free content. So I think that is us done with the issue. It's been a long one, but we did go big with the news this week. So I'm pretty sure that we've covered absolutely everything, and there's nothing further to say, Tim, unless you can think of anything.
Well, since we've been working overtime, everyone should remember that Nobody Means Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Laters. Until next time.